Coming up on this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society. Holy cow, a new Nintendo Direct! It's dangerous to go alone, so the Nintendo Cartridge Society goes with you. Welcome to Nintendo Cartridge Society. My name is Patrick Ellers, and I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, Mark Mitchell. Mark, how are you on this glorious Nintendo Direct day?
I'm doing so good. A surprise Nintendo Direct? I have never been so happy to be so incredibly dead wrong. When we recorded our episode on Monday, I was like, I've been talking for weeks. I've been like, Nintendo Directs are dead. We're never seeing a new Nintendo Direct. The next time we're going to hear about anything new is like after new Pokemon Snap comes out. And then Nintendo saw that and laughed. And that's right. And like that Tuesday morning was like, guess what? We're having a big Nintendo Direct and it's happening on Wednesday. And I couldn't be more happy.
And I know that you were very surprised that it happened. I will also claim to be surprised, even though I said, I think both on the show and in conversation with you off mic, that now that Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury is out and in the wild, that it is time for Nintendo to tell us what they're going to do with the rest of their year. And I believe that we have gotten that now. Also, way more 2022 stuff than I was expecting.
I was totally surprised. Well, also, we did get some stuff for this year, but definitely anything that's coming after summer is still a total mystery.
Oh yeah,
so
still
lots
of
fun surprises still remain for the year, which is such
Mark,
a fun place to be in.
It feels like we're doing the show backwards. Let's
you're right. You're right.
All right. My copy of Sonic Forces. Would you like to borrow it? We don't have a lot of time. This is a big direct. It was 15 minutes, and we're going to talk about it for like an hour. My copy of Sonic Forces for the Nintendo Switch. Would you like to borrow it? You can try. You got to email us at Nintendo Cartridge Society at gmail.com. And give us a mailing address so we can send this thing to you. You play it for as long as you want. There might be a copy of Untitled Goose Game in there. You have no control over that. I have no control over that. I do have some control over that, but I will not be swayed by your pleas for one game over the other. Here's a game that you can just get. Mark, you wanna set them up here?
Yeah, so we're giving away a copy of Tokyo Mirage Sessions Sharp FE for the Nintendo Switch. The code is only redeemable on the US Switch eShop. But in order to get this code, all you have to do is email us
at Nintendo Cartridge Society at gmail.com.
The subject line should be Sharp FE. That's like the # FE. And then in the body of the email, just include who your Mirage would be. It can be a Nintendo character. It can be not a Nintendo character. And a Mirage is just somebody who basically like your avatar in battle. Somebody who imbues you with power. Send that to us by March 15th. And all the entries, we will be randomly selecting one of the entries in order to get the code.
And a couple of you have already written in. Thank you so much for doing so and for telling us who your Mirages will be. I'm not going to say that because I don't think that's the case. I don't think we're going to select based on who gives us the best Mirage or the best reasoning for their Mirage. But keep that up anyway, because I like reading a good argument for why someone would be your Mirage.
Totally.
And also thank you for using the Sharp FE in the subject line. Makes it easy to sort. We appreciate it. So, as discussed, we are going to be talking about the Nintendo Direct that happened on Wednesday at 2 p.m. Pacific time. We had originally said that we were going to be discussing and reevaluating our Nintendo Switch backlogs. And this has partly come about because we got an email from listener Colton who heard me bemoaning the fact that I was in a gaming rut and sent an email with some suggestions and sort of motivation to here's how you can get out of your rut. Colton, I love the email. We will address it next week when we are talking about our Switch backlogs. But Mark, in the meantime, let's talk about our front logs. Oh, I hated that. Mark, 50 full minutes. They did not lie. We got nearly an hour of new Nintendo stuff, hosted by Shinya Takahashi. You wrote out his entire title here. Is that really his title?
So it's he has multiple titles. He wears
Right.
multiple hats at Nintendo. So yeah, he's like on the board of directors. He's the general manager of entertainment planning and development division. But I can't remember. I guess has he been the face of a Nintendo Direct before? It's been so long. It's been September 2019 since we had like a full Nintendo Direct. So I genuinely can't remember.
I think he has been one of the face, like, if not like the host of a direct, has been like one of the faces that pops up in like, the Switch showcase or,
Yeah.
whatever, where like they're really sharing time between their various personalities. And, I can't say that I did not find his hosting to be additive in any way. Every now and then someone does where you're like, I like that. I like to see Reggie. Or like it was always awesome to see like Iwata-san, or like Bill Trinan is also like great to see too. And we get
Aonuma.
Aonuma later in the video, which is awesome to see. I do like that right at the beginning, Takahashi acknowledges that they haven't been able to do one of these directs like this in a very long time. Over 530 days since the last Nintendo Direct, full fat Nintendo Direct. Outrageous.
It's wild. It's wild. One thing that was, I mean, it was super fun to me that this one came by surprise. I feel like in the past, we've had like rumors for weeks that like something was pending, and then when a Nintendo Direct came, I felt like it was easier to be disappointed because you had weeks and weeks of like hype. So I don't know how you felt about this one, Patrick, but I really genuinely came into this with like zero expectations, because I had no expectation that we were going to see the sequel to Breath of the Wild. I had no expectation that we were going to see Metroid Prime 4. Like, I had no expectation pretty much at all. And so I really enjoyed this Direct. Like, I thought some of the announcements were super fun. Like, there were a ton of games that I'm at least like interested in or interested in learning more about. But is that how did you feel about it? Because I know some people, it didn't have the megaton they were looking for.
Right, which is still like kind of ridiculous because like there are some like genuine Megaton announcements in here. Even like, are you gonna call Splatoon 3 not a Megaton announcement? Like, that's huge. But yeah, I mean, like I'm right there with you where I really enjoyed this direct. It was just awesome to see one that felt like a Nintendo Direct, where it's like, oh yeah, some of these trailers are too long, some of these are for older games, some of these are for games I'm never gonna play. But there's so much stuff that I am interested in here, and so many games where like you do not see coming. Like we'll talk about Famicom Detective Club when we get to it in the lineup. But stuff where you're like, you don't even know to like have that on your radar as like a piece of Nintendo history that they can resurface. And like, for all the like, oh, but like F-Zero still doesn't exist, and like we're not getting Metroid, and whatever. Like there's just so much Nintendo, right? And like we're getting it. They're giving us a form of Nintendo, and it rules.
Yeah, and I also thought like in addition to some first party announcements that I'm excited about, I also thought there was like a lot of third party stuff that I don't even know that, or like indie games that I don't even know that I'll necessarily end up playing them. But I loved how much like it just felt like there was a lot of breadth, where it was like
Totally.
this truly felt like a Nintendo Direct where there was kind of something for like any type of gamer.
Yeah. So I guess let's start at the top. And at sort of the most it's become a common part of the like Nintendo hype cycle. The next downloadable character for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate is Pyra and Mithra from Xenoblade Chronicles 2. I know that either Pyra or Rex has been like a sort of like common rallying cry for the Xenoblade fan base, wanting to have some sort of Xenoblade 2 representation in Smash. This one doesn't really do anything for me, but I'm also like, I'm kind of to the point where Smash Brothers new character announcements, I don't think there is a thing that could surprise me or a thing that can get me excited anymore, right? Like it's all sort of just like a wash of impossibly high standards. You know what I mean? Like I think it's cool. There's another character. I will accept her when she shows up.
Yeah, I feel the same way where like I kind of feel like there's no I think there are characters for sure that could surprise me, but I couldn't name them. Like it just
Right.
feels like there are so many characters in Smash already. One thing I really so you mentioned that, people had been kind of like hoping for or talking about like
Yeah.
Rex being in the game. And I liked how, these Smash intro videos have gotten a little cheeky, and I liked how they like had a nod to that in it where Pyra basically just like calls it out where it's like, I feel bad telling you, but I got an invitation to be in Smash.
Yeah, and he's like, I thought I was gonna be in Smash.
But the other thing that I thought was like Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is not a game that I've played. But what I thought was interesting about this character and what I think is cool to see return to Smash is this like idea of like the like Sheik/Zelda thing that
Yeah.
has gone away, but now we have like another character who has that same sort of like transformation, and I think that's really cool to bring back into the game.
Yeah, I agree. Gramps is coming as the stage. Gramps is like an elder dragon thing that you like fly around on the back of. I played a little bit of Xenoblade Chronicles 2, but I do not remember. I remember meeting Gramps and then leaving him, and was like, "Oh, I had to leave my old dragon friend. This is terrible." But he'll be in this game, so that's great. Rex joins Pyra for the final Smash. And the character comes out in March, so they will detail that, I'm sure with hour-long video, just going through the character's abilities at some point.
Up next was Fall Guys Ultimate Knockout, which releases this summer. I don't really have much to say about this. It's interesting to see Fall Guys come to Switch, but other than that, that's pretty much it.
Did you play any Fall Guys on PlayStation?
No, I didn't.
It's good. It's good and it's fun, and it's just like a big messy party game that you have to play by yourself. Like there's no local co-op or competitive play. But it's a game where you're controlling just like a weird little bean with arms and legs. And you're running through obstacle courses with like 60 other people, or like 100, I guess. Maybe it starts with 100. Who knows? And you just go through these obstacle courses until everyone is eliminated. And it's sort of the most like fun, frivolous form of a what are those games called? Where there's
Battle Royale.
Battle Royale, yes. Like it feels like a Fortnite by way of Double Dare.
Yeah, it just looks really silly. Like I'm excited to try it when it comes out on Switch this summer. And so I'm looking forward to giving it a shot, but I haven't played it yet.
And provided that whatever servers they're using for online can don't boot you. That was even a little bit of a problem on the PlayStation version of like keeping a solid enough connection to play all the way through the like 4 or 5 rounds to finish one of these things. But it's super fun. Hopefully they have it at either a low price point, or I mean I guess that's it. That's really all we can hope for is a low price point. It was free on PlayStation Plus when it came out, and so like, it has to be somewhere reasonable so that like everyone can just jump in and play. It is definitely a good way to just like waste a couple hours. Next was the Outer Wilds, which I have to say the trailer that they played for this, with like a running voiceover, like sort of explaining what was happening, is the best description I've ever seen for this game. It came out maybe like 2 years ago, 2019, I believe, and is a game about exploring the galaxy, but the solar system or the entire universe or whatever is destroyed by an exploding star every 22 minutes, and you can like go back in time and like re-experience those last 22 minutes. And this made it look like haunting and cool, and like, yeah, this is a game that I missed out on when it came to other platforms. I am interested in picking it up this summer.
Yeah, totally. I always had this game confused with The Outer Worlds, which
Of
is
course.
also a game
Mark,
set
of
in outer
course you
space
did.
where you're like exploring other worlds. Otherwise the games are not similar at all. But it is definitely a game that I was like, is this The Outer Worlds? Is this the game I played? No, it's The Outer Wilds. Apparently, there were some people upset online because they felt like the trailer was like spoilery, but this is a situation that for me personally, like I needed the spoils to understand what was going on, like why I should be interested in this game.
Yeah. Well, it was what I just said a spoiler that like you repeat the time?
I have no
22
idea.
minutes?
I have no
Yeah.
idea. Yeah.
To me, that sounds like the hook. That's like going
Right.
into Russian Doll and not knowing what it's about, right?
Yeah.
Which I guess
Exactly.
I won't say because maybe some people are a spoiler averse, and if you're coming here, you're not expecting a spoiler about Russian Doll. But still, like, yeah, I think let's understand the basic premise of the game before we try to sell it.
But it does look very cool. It reminded me like of, I mean, when I heard the premise, like 22 minutes, I was like, oh, it's like somebody really likes Majora's Mask and was like, I'm gonna make a cool
Yes.
haunting indie game based on that.
Yeah, Outer Space Majora's Mask.
Up next was Famicom Detective Club, 2 games in the Famicom Detective Club series. The first one is called The Missing Heir, and the second is The Girl Who Stands Behind. So these are 2 like deep cut murder mystery, point and click like adventure games from the Famicom era in Japan. So that's like the Nintendo Entertainment System era. And these games have never been localized before. They've never been in a language that wasn't Japanese, and I never expected them to be. And so this was
Yeah.
like a really cool surprise. Like these are games that I am excited to play.
And they are not like being represented here or localized in the Fire Emblem and the Binding Blade. What it would something dragon in the Binding Blade. The game is too long of a name. This is like remade. There's appears to be voice acting and like fully animated cutscenes and stuff. Looks really cool and pretty slick. I'm excited to try one or both of these games when they release them. Mark, it looks like you did a little bit of extra credit research about the price point of these things.
That's right. So they're $35 each, but if you buy one, then you get a $10 discount on the second one. So basically you get both for $60. I think what I'm probably going to do is just buy one because I don't know like if I'm going to want to play 2 of these back to back. So I'm probably just going to buy one, and then eventually if I end up wanting to buy the second one, then I'll like get the $10 discount. But yeah, if you want to pick up both at $60, they're coming out on May 14th.
Yeah, and this is exactly what I was referring to before when I was like, here's a piece of Nintendo history, a thing that they can revive that like is for all intents and purposes off of all of our radars, right? So yeah, just it's cool to have this back, and I'm really looking forward to checking it out. The next up, and I don't think have much to say about Samurai Warriors 5. That's a new Muso game that is coming to the Switch. Comes out this summer. I wonder if that's just like part of the like, oh yes, you make a Hyrule Warriors game, and so we will now like sort of put these other Dynasty Warrior style games like front and center in our direct. Because I feel like normally those would just quietly release on platforms forever, right?
Yeah, they make a point of saying that this one has like a revamped like graphical style and stuff, and
Yeah.
so I have nothing to back this up, but I'm curious if they are making it like more Switch focused in development. But
Yeah, that's interesting.
next was Legend of Mana remake from Square Enix. So this is a remake of a PlayStation 1 game that comes out on June 24th. And it looks very much in the style of the previously announced Saga Frontier remastered that is coming later this year, that comes out in April. Where I feel like, I don't know what it is about this. Maybe it's the graphical style of like the games themselves in their original PS1 form. But I feel like these like remasters, like they look fun. They look good. Like I feel like some of like the Square Enix remasters I'm not all that like interested in because I feel like they look a little bit ugly. But I feel like these retain the charm of like the PlayStation 1 graphics without looking like too high definition, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, well, and the Legend of Mana, like the graphics in that original game seem to be sticking pretty close to the original aesthetic of Secret of Mana and the second Densetsu games on the Super NES. So like it seems pretty similar to what like an indie game trying to emulate the Super NES would look like now. And so yeah, it seems right up my alley. A role playing game where they're like building elements, I don't know. It seems really cool. It's coming out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I was just gonna say, yeah, this one, like, I've never played Legend of Mana before
Yeah,
on the
me neither.
PlayStation 1, but yeah, like the way they explained it in the direct, it seemed wild. Where it's like, oh, you get out into the world and it's an empty map, and you're like placing items onto the map, and where you place them has like an effect on the story or like forward progress in the game. Yeah, that system doesn't make any sense to me, but that's what's kind of cool
Seems
about
cool
it. I've
though.
never seen
Seems
anything
cool.
like that before.
And also, this is not the last time that by a long shot, that we're going to be talking about a Square Enix game coming to Switch. Next up is Monster Hunter Rise, which we already know about. We've seen a bunch of already. They had a pretty lengthy trailer that showed off just a bunch of different monsters and kind of teased some like story stuff. Again, I don't think either of us are really plugged in enough to Monster Hunter lore or even Monster Hunter games to know like how different that is from other Monster Hunter games. But there you have it. It comes out real soon, March 26th. And they showed off the collector's edition or the special edition Switch, which has like graphics on the dock and, it's a special edition for Monster Hunter, and a special edition Pro controller, which again just has like Monster Hunter, like glyphs and runes and stuff all over it.
Some of the monsters they showed, like that like weird like that like spider one at the beginning of the trailer.
That one was too scary.
They're like cool. I wish I could get into Monster Hunter. It's like a series that's always been like a little beyond my grasp.
Yeah,
And
totally.
but like I feel like maybe it exists, but like I feel like an anime in this world I would totally eat up. Like those little like cat type creatures that are like bacon stuff. Like I love all of it.
Palicos.
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 I love it. Yeah, like all that stuff. It's like it's right up my alley, but the games have always been a little too like fiddly.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that you can see in the trailer for Monster Hunter Rise is they show a fair amount of gameplay where, like, you can just tell those attack animations are too long. It takes too long to swing a sword. I can't get into it.
Up next was a reveal of a new Mario game. You have Mario Golf Super Rush.
Mario Golf. It's crazy. It's here.
So it's is developed to allow for button controls or motion controls. So you can play like using your Joy-Con, little Wii Sports style. Has a couple of different like multiplayer modes, including one that they spent time talking about called Speed Golf, where basically you all tee off at the same time, and then you have to run as fast as possible to the ball. And there are like different like power-ups and different swings that you can get to try to get an advantage. This looks like super fun. Like this seems like it could be like really chaotic multiplayer fun.
Yeah. No, it's the as soon as they showed off, like, even if you're not like trying to get there faster than your opponents, the fact that you can just like run through the golf course seems awesome. Seems awesome. It seems so good. It takes that, like, one of the things that always bugs me about video game golf is that, like, you hit the ball kind of settles, and then you teleport to the ball. And that's just such like a bummer. You lose any sense of like space. And the only good thing about golfing, as far as I can tell, is being on a golf course, right? Why do you want to take that away?
Then also the game will include a story mode where you have a Mii character, which, first of all, like the fact that Miis were being highlighted in this way, I was like, what? And that was only the appetizer to like the big what that came later. And it has like the RPG elements that we were talking about a little bit in our ABCs of Nintendo Sports not that long ago. We saw like, I guess in Mario Tennis Aces, there was like a story mode, but previously just the handheld versions of these games had this kind of like story mode with RPG elements where you can choose where to allocate points, like if you want accuracy or like power and that kind of stuff. So basically, you level up with experience points and increase stats as you like. It'll be interesting, again, to see how this is. Like, is it a story mode in the vein of Mario Tennis Aces, or is there a little bit more to it? But we don't have to wait that long to find out. It comes out on June 25th.
So very similar to the, or at least in some regards, to the story mode in Mario Golf on the 3DS, which I was playing a couple weeks ago, in that you have to play it as your Mii, which, like, I guess, but like, if I'm playing Mario Golf, do I not want to be Mario?
But I guess that's what the other modes are for, right? Like
I
in
guess.
like in speed golf, you can play as
Yeah.
your Mii, but you can also play as an assortment of Mario characters.
But your me is going to have all of your like leveled up stuff and like
That's true, but we don't know if that carries over to
that's a good point. That's a
speed
good
golf.
point.
Like speed golf might just be its own thing.
Next up, we got Tales from the Borderlands. Naturally, it's going to be all 5 episodes. We talked about this game getting a rating from the like Taiwanese rating board
Yeah.
on Switch, maybe even just on Tuesday.
Yeah.
So, yep, confirmed it is coming. It's coming soon, March 24th. It'll be available on Switch.
Can I say one thing that I was grateful for in this trailer, and this is so specific, is that there was a part where they were like, and all of the trademark Borderlands humor, and I was so worried that they were going to do a quick cutaway to some sort of like gag, because and the reason I was worried is because those are always painfully unfunny.
Yes. Yeah, well, because they'll just, I mean, whatever you want to say about the style of Borderlands humor, I think there's, easy/obvious criticism there. But anytime you say, and the trademark humor, and then like show an isolated 2 seconds.
Howdy, partner.
Yeah, like, nope. But so yeah, they did not do that here. Next, we moved on to Capcom Arcade Stadium, which is another one that we've talked about in previous episodes of the show. It launched today, so yesterday now, and is a collection of Capcom arcade games that you sort of buy like piecemeal or like in packs.
Yes, so you get 1943, the like shmup, for free. And then you can also, the way they're doing it is kind of, to me, weird. There's like 3 different game packs which come with like a collection of games. And then you can also just buy Ghost and Goblins on its own. Like that's not part of a pack, just its own thing.
They don't know what they're doing.
Maybe or maybe they do, and they're like, people will want Ghost and Goblins, and maybe some of these other ones, like nobody's gonna know what they are.
Yeah, but that's why you bundle it with like a bunch of other games and charge like 50 cents more.
Yeah. Good point. Up next was Stubs the Zombie Rebel Without a Pulse, which is a remaster of a 2005 Xbox game that is being brought to Switch and other platforms by Aspyr, the company that we were also talking about on Tuesday with their Star Wars ports. The game is coming out on March 16th, so a little less than a month from now. I have no context for this game, so I don't really have anything to add to there.
Yeah, me too. Do you think this falls under the same sort of thing that we were talking about with the Star Wars games being re-released by Aspyr, that like no one really knows who owns the right to distribute this thing anymore, and Aspyr's like, we'll do it?
Yeah, I don't know. I would be really interested to figure out like what the business agreement with like the original developers are and like how all of that licensing works out.
Yeah. It feels very weird. And Stubbs the Zombie is a game that I know only by name, because you got to hand it to him. Stubbs the Zombie, great game name.
It's pretty good. Can't impeach that, yeah, for sure.
Next up was No More Heroes 3. Mark, how long have we been hearing about No More Heroes 3? It feels like forever.
It does feel like forever. But I played the first No More Heroes game, had my fill, didn't play the second game, but I actually think that like the twist to the premise, because the premise of all the games previously have been like, okay, you're like an assassin named Travis Touchdown, but you're trying to like make your way up the assassin ranks, and you do that by taking on assassins that are ranked higher than you. And so the twist of this game is that like you're instead of taking on assassins, you're taking on aliens who are like threatening the earth, but you still have to like there are still aliens in this like chain of command above you that you are like taking them on one by one. And this game looks insane. It's not enough to like get me to play it, because I don't know that it's insane in a way that like I will enjoy, but I really enjoyed the like twist on the formula with introducing aliens to the whole thing.
I gotta say, just the number of like different UI and like menus and like just on-screen graphics that are in display in this short trailer is astounding, right? Like this game seems like it is like hyper referential to all video games all the time. And they make a point to say that like you need to earn money doing odd jobs to like pay for your entrance fees into these like fighting competitions. And they show him like mowing a lawn, and it's like, what is that?
Well,
Is that part of this game? Is you mow a lawn?
Yeah, and that's kind of been like part of that's a staple of the franchise, because the first game on Wii was like an open world game, but it was like,
Yeah.
a kind of like small janky open world, and that's the appeal of this game. But it also meant that like, yeah, you are doing stuff like that, just like really like menial tasks in order to earn the currency, because like there's not much else for you to do in the world.
It looks super strange.
Comes out on August 27th. And this was one of the games that like originally was announced to come out in 2020, but was pushed because of COVID, and so
Right.
now has a new release date at the end of summer. Up next was a game that looks like at the same time really, really cool, and also just like kind of baffling. It's called Neon White, and it is a card-based first-person action game where you are hunting demons in heaven. And it's from Ben Esposito, who's also the creator of Donut County. And the part of it, like when it was like card-based combat, I was like, I'm not really interested in that. But then when you saw, or like from the trailer, what it looks like is like it's almost like a puzzle game where there are cards placed in different areas of the room, and so you have to like choose and plan your movements based on like, okay, how am I going to get that card and then use what I have to like get to the next place. And that seems kind of cool.
I mean, it seemed really like fluid and slick in execution that like I'm dying to know like what the actual gameplay is like what that experience is, because it looks as though you are selecting cards that like give you different traversal and attack abilities for like a single instance, and like using that to just like catapult yourself around a room and like take out demons. Like it seems pretty cool.
Yeah. It also it was funny to me. It was announced to release in winter 2021.
What does that mean, Mark? What does that mean? We're there now.
I
It's
think
winter
it means,
2021 now.
I know. I think the intention is that it's going to be like in the 2 weeks at the end of the year, like between December 21st, 2021, and like New Year's Day.
I mean, there's no way to know what they intended. There was another instance of something sort of like this later, where they showed a date on screen and said summer 2021 at the same time. So like I think some of these release dates are coming in hot and or sloppy. So maybe this I mean winter 2021 means literally nothing right now. Like it could either be
no. I think
you think it means December?
I think it's intended to say like the end of the year, like not fall, like the end of 2021.
I'm just saying most of winter happens at the beginning of the year.
I know. So you're saying that they're not telling us anything. I'm saying they're telling us something very specific. They're talking about 2 weeks at the end of the year.
Well, when this game ends up coming out at the beginning of March, we'll have to have a conversation about it. Next up is DC Superhero Girls Teen Power, which, Mark, there was a lot to take in here real quick. This is a DC superhero game starring all of the women of the DC universe, but as kids. It's like seems like it's kind of a brawler style game mixed with kind of like Persona style going to school and like buying outfits and cool stuff like that. Published by Nintendo.
Yeah, that's the part that I thought was really interesting, because it's not just a license game for like DC. It is a licensed game very specifically for this like franchise, this DC Superhero Girls, which is a or at least like part of it is a cartoon on Cartoon Network, I believe. That I
believe that there's also a comic line too. That
okay,
specific,
yeah.
Like in that universe.
I think the series was created by the person who created like the My Little Pony reboot, but I could be wrong there. But yeah, so I was surprised to see that Nintendo was the publisher, not somebody like Warner Brothers. But yeah, this was one of the games where it was like, oh, like this is not targeted towards me, but like it's really cool that it's getting this placement in the direct.
Yeah, agreed. It's also I appreciate Nintendo like making the deals that they are with um Warner Brothers Interactive and like those studios, because they're obviously missing out on some of like the higher profile any of the like Shadow of like those Middle Earth games, like those are never coming to Switch. And like the Batman games, like they're not going to end up coming to Switch. So it's cool that they are, finding avenues into this IP anyway.
And it's nice to see Nintendo not choosing a side in the Marvel or DC wars. They're like, yeah, we had Marvel Ultimate Alliance, but now we also have a DC game. Everybody should just be holding hands, or it's all good.
Comes out June 4th.
Up next is Plants vs. Zombies Battle for Neighborville, like Complete Edition or something like that. It comes out on March 19th, so another one that's coming very soon. They specifically call out that you can play to unlock everything, so maybe implying that there's no microtransactions, like you just buy the thing and then that's it. You have access to it. Another EA entry, and there are like a couple more on this list or like in this presentation, but like EA not necessarily bringing its like Battlefield to Switch, but we are seeing more and more entries after literally years of nothing from EA.
I really do appreciate the implied no microtransactions, just because I think that is a something that can, like, a criticism that can be levied against Plants vs Zombies just as a franchise. And they're largely like mobile or iPad games, so it's just kind of nice to have that like confirmation, like, no, this is actually one that you can like sit down with kids and they can play as much of it as they want and not run the risk of spending hundreds of dollars on skins or whatever. Next up, this maybe the weirdest announcement of the whole hour: Miitopia, the 3DS Mii-based RPG, is coming to the Switch. The second appearance of the Miis here, Mark.
Yeah, and one that I think it's interesting that they're bringing Miitopia, like the original 3DS game, over to Switch and not creating a new one. I only played the demo for Miitopia. I never played the full game. But one of the things that's missing from Switch that was like much easier to access on the Nintendo 3DS was like Mii's from your friends or from people from Street Pass. Like it feels like a kind of like ungainly marriage with Switch where yes, like Mii's exist on the system, but I think you can only really create, like one specific to games, or you can create one for your avatar, but there's not just like a place where Mii's live. And Miitopia, like the kind of joy of that game on 3DS, or at least in the demo, was like seeing all the Mii's that you had picked up from Street Pass and from your friends, like pre-populated in the world, and seeming like having to generate those from scratch, like purely to put into Miitopia, seems less than ideal to me.
Yeah, I back that 100%. Like, there was such a reason to create your Mii's in the first place on the Wii, and then those would carry over to your Wii U and 3DS, and then like it's just sort of like a hard reset. And the Mii's are really, I feel like the Mii's are part of Switch as like they're grandfathered in, right? Like they were too popular to ignore it completely, but like they have not done anything to like keep that ecosystem going on the new platform. And so now that they're like, oh yeah, by the way, you better have a bunch of Mii's, but like you don't, you just have yours.
Right. So and hopefully like in the game they address that. And so like because the Miitopia on 3DS, it comes pre-populated with a bunch of like randomly generated Mii's if you don't have any on your system. But like the fun of the game was seeing your friends or like the celebrity lookalikes that you had created just like show up in the game as characters. And so how they'll recapture that, I've hoped they've put some thought into it. But anyways, the other part of this that's interesting to me is just the fact that like I think this is really the first 3DS to Switch port that we've seen.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an interesting door to open just because, there's a lot of 3DS games that I would love
There's a lot of stuff behind that door.
see on Switch. But
and then I feel like from 3DS games, it is a short walk to DS games. We're gonna get to Zelda game re-releases here later in the episode, but like, let's get Phantom Hourglass and Spirit Tracks on the Switch. Like, let's do it. Let's roll them on out.
Yeah, I mean, that would be awesome. The other thing I think is interesting about Miitopia is just like the price point that they've chosen for it. So it's $50 here in the US, which is
too much.
$10 less than a new full price Switch game, but $20 more than it was on 3DS. It's just an interesting, like, not even middle ground, but just like placement there. My memory is that the Sushi Strikers, when that game was released simultaneously on 3DS and Switch, that was also the price point for Sushi Strikers, but I can't remember 100%.
Yeah, I think the price point for Sushi Strikers on 3DS was the full 40.
Sorry,
I meant wrong.
Sorry, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, the disparity is a little different. Yeah. The sort of base price point for 3DS games is $40, and I believe that's what Sushi Strikers launched as on 3DS, but for $50 on the Switch. This is a pointless line of inquiry, as no one remembers that game. But this comes out on May 21st.
Up next is Animal Crossing New Horizons is getting some Super Mario Brothers items. You can get Mario, Luigi, Wario, princess costumes, probably some other ones. There will be items available for placement on your item or your island, like blocks, question blocks, flagpoles, etc. Probably the big one is warp pipes, where you can place 2 of them and then use them to get from one location to the other on your island, seemingly almost immediately. What a great feature. And and I wonder if you'll be able to place multiple like around, so like you could or if you'll be limited to just the one.
Yeah, I imagine you'll be limited to just the one set. When I was telling Sarah about this, she said, can your animal neighbors use the warp pipe too? And I was like, I don't know.
But I hope so.
That would be asking if they can use it.
That would be so much. That would be so cute if they do. For some reason, I find the idea of like some of those adorable neighbors like going down the Mario pipes to just be absolutely like, it's too much to handle.
They'd be so timid about it, and they'd like look down and then they'd crawl in. Anyway, that's fun. We'll check it out. You can download the update on February 25th, and the items are available on March 1st. I really look forward to figuring out what like the limits are on all these things. Like how many warp pipes we can put out, what the rest of the items are, what the rest of the costumes are. Seems really, really cool. Then, Mark, I would say, announcement of the show for me is this next one, Project Triangle Strategy, which is the working title so far for a new game from Square Enix that looks a little bit like Octopath Traveler and Fire Emblem had a baby and they named it New Final Fantasy Tactics. Right? Does that seem right to you?
Yeah, they oh man, I'm blanking on it right now, but they introduced it as like the next entry in like the 3D
in the 2D 3D.
Yeah, that's right. The 2D 3D like series. And so it does borrow like the aesthetic of Octopath Traveler. And yeah, I was also like really excited for this. One thing that struck me about it is, obviously we have Bravely Default 2 coming out in just a couple of weeks or like a week. But after the success of Octopath Traveler, the development or the team at Square Enix behind Octopath Traveler is also the team that was behind the Bravely Default series, and they were talking about how they were building out their team so that way they could almost be like releasing these types of games once a year. And we very quickly saw that become a thing because you have Bravely Default 2, and then next year we're going to have this Project Triangle Strategy, which I would love. I made a note here that, when Octopath Traveler was announced, it was called Project Octopath Traveler, and they were like, that's just the working title, And then, of course, when the game was actually released, it was called just Octopath Traveler. So I think it would be hilarious if the game really just ends up being called Triangle Strategy.
Triangle Strategy is a really poor name. Like, it's really bad. I do like that, like, in the early parts of this trailer, they're showing like the 3 different like ways that you can approach things. And instead of building like a sort of like binary morality system, it's sort of like a tertiary a 3-way morality where like what is driving your decisions that you make in the game. It can be based on like these 3 different like dynamics, and that depending on what you develop with the choices you make, that can affect like who you're able to recruit later or what your goals end up being in the game. Has a very like Fire Emblem Three Houses feel to it, right? Like just showing the different characters and like the color sort of behind them, and that coupled with the strategy gameplay, like I was definitely getting hints of Fire Emblem there. So yeah, I mean, I'm all in on this. It seems really good. There's voice acting for all of like the character lines, and the voice acting seemed solid. Like normally when I hear RPG characters, especially JRPG characters, in a trailer speaking, I'm like, next thing. I want not to hear this. I want to hear whatever the next thing is. But this like solid line reads and like interesting voices. I don't know. It felt good. Am I crazy, Mark?
No, I thought that I thought the voice acting was I didn't really notice the voice acting, and I feel like that's a huge compliment
That's a good
for a
sign.
project
Yeah.
like this. I also I the thing that excites me about this is that it's not just like it's not a sequel to Octopath Traveler, and it's not like in the vein of Octopath Traveler. It's not a turn-based RPG with like a unique battle
Yes.
system. It's like using that same aesthetic style and the same kind of uh like feeling to on a completely different genre. So it's like a tactical RPG, and that's really cool to me. I'm excited to see like the I mean, who knows what could possibly be next? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, and I don't know why they don't just call this Final Fantasy Tactics something. Just like I don't know why they didn't just call the Octopath Traveler a saga game, because it is basically. But they, there you go. Square Enix names things weird.
I actually think it's for me. I like that it's not part of Final Fantasy. Um, Look, I apologize. We almost got through an entire. Well, we weren't anyways. We were going to talk about Star Wars next, so it was going to come up anyways. But like one thing, I always want from Star Wars is like let's get away from the Skywalkers, right? Like
Sure.
let's tell stories in the Star Wars universe that don't include Yoda. They don't include like Luke. Like we can just tell the universe is vast, and I feel that way about like RPG or like about Square Enix, where it's like yeah, like I think it's great that there is something like outside of Final Fantasy,
Yeah.
and like there's this group that's able to do like their own thing, and that own thing is cool, and it's developing its like own universe and its own vocabulary. I think that's really fun.
So that is going to come out sometime in 2022. There is a demo available evidently right now. And just as they did with Octopath Traveler and with Bravely Default 2, after you play through the demo, you'll get like a survey to leave some feedback. It's an interesting thing that they are keeping up, and seemingly only Square Enix is doing it, and only Square Enix is doing it for their Nintendo Switch exclusives. Is that weird?
we saw Demon X Machina. I think they did a similar thing after their demo. But no,
That's
it is
right.
interesting because I do feel like it's specific. I can't think of a scenario outside of like these Nintendo exclusives where they have been doing it. And clearly, like when I did when I played Octopath Traveler and then like I got the survey, like I had like the most unhelpful, like I was basically like, it was great, I loved it. And then I saw like the feedback that other people were giving, and I was like, oh yeah, that is good critical feedback. So this time I'm determined to actually give like constructive, like helpful feedback.
Yeah, Mark, come on. Get on the team. Join the team. Let's move on to Star Wars Hunters.
Okay, so it's like a 30-second trailer for Star Wars Hunters, which you're looking at this graffiti, and I was like, ooh, I think this is Star Wars. And then we're seeing these like holograms of like people in the Star Wars universe or new characters
a
in the Star
Stormtrooper,
Wars.
a Mandalorian, a Wookiee. I forget what the first one was, but
And
those were the second, third, and fourth.
And then that's basically all we got, other than like there was a new game. It's called Star Wars Hunters, and it's developed by Zynga. But there was an article on StarWars.com that talked like a little bit more about it. And so what we know is that it's a competitive, free-to-play, third-person shooter that is focused on team-based multiplayer battles that comes out this year. It'll be on Switch and also on mobile platforms. And the StarWars.com article specifically mentions that it doesn't require a Nintendo Switch Online membership to play, which I think is interesting because I don't know how that works. Like, I assumed that all multiplayer, like online multiplayer games, required a Nintendo Switch Online subscription.
I think there are a couple that don't. Like, I think Fortnite falls into that category.
Oh, okay.
And maybe like Rocket League. Like there are a couple games that get around it somehow.
Maybe it is those like free like battle royale, because like Paladins might also be in like that same boat. So yeah, that's you're right. That's probably what it is.
So the fact that it's developed by Zynga and is a free to play game makes me immediately less excited. But I mean, I also just know that is, on the lead of Fortnite, just sort of a viable business plan. It just makes me less excited about it. I want to pay a price for a game and play it and not be bugged about paying more for it.
The vibe I get from this, and mostly like based on the StarWars.com article, is like that it's not aimed at kids, but it's like kind of aimed at kids like a little bit. But the article specifically calls out like the unique like art style, which I don't know that we didn't really see anything of the game, but the presentation seems to be like they're considering it like a new perspective on Star Wars. So I'm interested to see what that means. Yeah.
Next up, we got Knockout City, with one of the weirder trailers, I think, because they were showing all of these different like video game protagonists being interviewed, and then them playing this video game. And I don't, Mark, do you have any concept as to like whether those characters are part of this game or just like a weird ad technique?
Yeah, I couldn't tell if they were part of this game, which I think they are. But what I wasn't sure on is like, are these like the orc and stuff? Like, are these existing characters from like games that I'm not familiar with from like that are being represented here? Or are they just like archetypes where it's like,
I think they're archetypes. I think
got it.
Yeah,
got it.
Because there's also like the princess in there too. Like that's not a specific princess, I don't think.
So this is like a battle royale, except instead of like team-based battle royale, but instead of or I guess maybe it's not a battle royale, maybe it's more like Splatoon, where it's like team-based combat, but instead of trying to like shoot each other, you're playing like dodgeball in these urban environments.
Smart. I mean, it's smart. That sounds like a fun concept. That sounds like more fun than Star Wars Hunters, and I like Star Wars, and I have no idea what that game is. But like, yeah, dodgeball running around a city. Sounds fun. Sounds cool. Comes out May 21st.
Yeah, and it's developed by Valen Studios, which is the studio behind Mario Kart Live Home Circuit, which was like the augmented reality Mario Kart game. I thought this looked cool. Like, this could be fun to play, but I'm hopeful that like it has a good, fun, supportive online community. So I feel like that would make or break it.
Oh yeah, could you imagine like getting on a team and hating it? That would be the worst. I guess it's not unlike Splatoon. You play the match and then you jump on another team. Next up is World's End Club. I guess this was originally a mobile game. It is a game that combines side-scrolling action and narrative gameplay. About 12 kids that visit an underwater theme park, and then when they return from the underwater theme park, the world has changed in some way, and they have to figure out what's going on.
Yeah, I didn't entirely understand. It was like they were in the underwater theme park for some sort of like game, and was the game
and
like
then the game is canceled?
Yeah, but the game was like clear. A like battle royale or something. That part was not clear. But it's from the studio, co-founded by the creator of the cult series Danganronpa, which is like kind like similar, or maybe in the similar vein, where it's like kids in high school, but there's like a murder mystery aspect to it and some supernatural stuff, and so it's like like an adventure game cross with like point and click like dating sim, like that kind of stuff.
Yeah, with like elements of like Hunger Games or like Battle Royale to like the narrative of it. Anyway, this comes out May 28th. Looks interesting. I don't know that I know this is a game that already existed. I don't have any knowledge of it or even any like impressions of like whether people liked it or not.
Yeah, I think it's well regarded. Like I think it's uh pretty highly rated, but other than that, like I don't know anything about it either. Up next was just a real quick mention that Hades, the indie game that was released last year, is getting a physical release and kind of like a cool one. It comes with a nice art book,
Yeah.
a download code for the soundtrack, and it's releasing in a little over a month on March 19th.
Which is all really cool. Sorry, someone just rolled by my window with an amp on wheels and it made a lot of noise. Um, yeah, I mean, if I didn't already have this game, I would probably pick it up physically too. Hades is amazing. Everyone owes it to themselves to play it in some form or another. If you want it physically, you can. Next up is a Ninja Gaiden Master Collection, which includes Sigma, Sigma 2, and I just wrote 3. It's Ninja Gaiden 3, and then it has like a subtitle. It's not a Sigma
Razor's
game.
Edge, I think it is.
Razor's Edge. I don't really know anything about these games. Are the Sigma games different from the Ninja Gaiden like reboot games that came out like a decade ago? Or are those
so they're basically a remixed version. So like the original, those Ninja Gaiden games came out and then they got like remixed, and so it's like different enemy placements, different difficulty level, like all that kind of stuff. And there are people who swear by the Sigma version, and there are people who swear by the originals. And I haven't played any of them because the first game came out on the original Xbox, I believe.
That's right.
And it was one of those games where like at the time it was so marketed on the fact that like, look how bloody it is when you cut somebody's head off, and it was just like the gore is the thing. And so it just like wasn't appealing to me at all. Although I did pick up the DS game when that came out, the one you played like sideways.
Yeah, you played sideways, and it was all like with the touch screen and the stylus. Anyway, it includes all DLC game modes and costumes and all of that. This is the one where it said on screen June 10th, but the voiceover said summer 2021. So, you know, things coming in hot here.
Up next was Hyrule Warriors: Age of Calamity is getting a expansion pass. This part of the presentation was funny to me only because like they showed I hesitate to call it a trailer. They showed it like images from the game, but with a gradient filter on it. And then
yeah, it was weird.
At the very end, they showed like this wall of text for like a brief second that I don't know how anybody could absorb it. But basically, it's an expansion pass for $20. It's going to have 2 waves of content. The first wave will come out in June, and it's going to include new characters for the roster, new enemy types, new weapon types, and new challenges in the Royal Ancient Lab. And then in November, you'll get Wave 2, and that includes new character vignettes, new stages, even more new characters for the roster, and new battle skills for existing characters. You can't buy the waves separately. You just have to buy the whole $20 expansion pass. There's also a bonus or purchase bonus, which I think you can pre-order the expansion pass now, but the purchase bonus becomes available starting May 28th, and it's a new costume and a new weapon for Link.
And this is pretty consistent with the DLC for like the original Hyrule Warriors, and for the Fire Emblem Warriors as well. Like this model of $20 for an expansion pass with a bunch of new characters, and then new story stuff for the existing characters later. Is just sort of the order of the day for these things. So it is it's coming to Hyrule Warriors: Age of Calamity as well. And then we sort of like hit a couple like really surface level things here. Bravely Default 2. There's a trailer or a final trailer which is available now. The game comes out end of next week. Ghosts and Goblins Resurrection was showed off for a second. That's coming out February 25th. Saga Frontier Remastered, which we mentioned before and have mentioned on previous episodes, coming out April 15th. And Apex Legends coming out on March 9th. Apex Legends we knew about. I don't remember why, but we knew that it was coming to Switch, and just kind of nice to get like confirmation and a date on when we would see that, and that knowing that crossplay is going to be available from day one on that is big for the Apex fan base. So that's all good.
And then next, Takahashi throws to Zelda series producer Eiji Aonuma, and at the moment, I was like, are we going to get something from the sequel to Breath of the Wild? And Aonuma immediately
it's a real hold your breath moment, right? It's a real like
and Aonuma's like they are anticipating what everybody is going through. And he's like, right. I understand that you guys were hoping to hear something about the sequel to Breath of the Wild. I don't have anything for you today, but we will be showing you something later this year. But until that comes out,
he also said that development is continuing smoothly.
Yes,
which is important because the last time someone sort of like stepped out in front of a black background and just like straight down the barrel of the camera and was like, that game you're looking forward to, they ended the sentence with Metroid Prime 4, right? And that got rebooted and restarted. They weren't happy with where it was. So we got all signs point to Breath of the Wild 2 is on track and looking good, and we will find out more about it later in the year.
But to tide us over, Aonuma wanted to introduce a new Legend of Zelda game for us to play on Switch. And that, of course, is Skyward Sword HD, coming 10 years after it was originally released on the Nintendo Wii. This is wild. It's wild for a number of reasons. One of which is that Aonuma kind of like teased this 3 years ago at one of the Zelda concerts. Yep. And nobody was like, is this a real thing? And yes, it turned out to be a real thing.
Yeah. It's crazy to me that this game came out 10 years ago. That's it was a game that I missed just because I wasn't super plugged into the Switch or the Wii at the end of its life cycle. And it was a little bit turned off by the motion controls of it. / I never had a Wii Motion Plus. So it's just not a game that I ever really played. I got my hands on it at some point, maybe even downloaded the Wii version on the Wii U and tried to play it a little bit there, but sort of lost interest in it. It is they're presenting it here obviously in HD, but the I think main selling point here is that they are offering 2 different ways to control it. One with motion controls using 2 Joy-Cons to emulate the Wii Motion Plus and nunchuck controls of the original. And then also a way to play it in handheld mode or with a Pro Controller where you control the sword with the right control stick.
And maybe the answer is super obvious, but how do you control the camera if that's the case?
So this is what I was thinking. First of all, I don't remember how the camera controlled in the original, but yeah, I mean, because there must have been. I bet it is mostly like a Z targeting thing, right?
I bet you're right. I bet you're right.
Yeah, that's probably what you do. Because yeah, I mean, normally we're used to control your character with the left stick and the camera with the right. But Zelda, especially older Zelda, has always been a little like, it doesn't totally apply the exact same way.
Yeah, I bet you're right. They also showed off like new Joy-Con that are like themed for Skyward Sword. One that's themed after Link's shield and one that's themed after the Master Sword. And I think I came down on the side of these looking really cool, but initially I couldn't decide.
I think they're hot. I think they're good. I think they look good. I will always be conceptually bummed out by the idea that Link's sword is in his right hand. Or wait, how do they have it? Do they have it so that Which one is they switch his handedness, right? For the motion control games?
He was traditionally left-handed, but then he became right-handed
Right.
in Twilight Princess.
Um and then is he right-handed again in this, or is he
That's my
left-handed in
assumption, but I don't
Hmm.
know. I was in the same
Um
exact boat you were, where like I didn't own a Wii Motion Plus. I wasn't really plugged into the Wii at
yeah.
the end of its life. I didn't play Skyward Sword. I know that it has like not the best reputation. At the time it reviewed really well, but I think people have soured on it over the years. But I'm excited to give it a chance.
Yeah, I mean, I my recollection of the narrative at the time was that the game justifies like motion controls and justifies like precise motion controls, which it may well do, but that is just so not what video gaming at large is. That like it may succeed very well on its own terms, but those terms are, it's like Half-Life Alyx, right? Where it's like this is a great VR game, but people still have whatever resistance they have to playing games in VR. Like I think it's the same thing, which is how it can both be like a good game, but a game that like people aren't excited to revisit or give a chance to in the first place.
I also think it's interesting that Aonuma like it kind of like explains not the narrative of the game, but the narrative of its place in Zelda history. Where
Yeah.
like one, he specifically calls out like, "Hey, this game takes place the earliest in the Legend of Zelda timeline." But in addition to that, like, hey, if you are into Zelda because of Breath of the Wild, this is what Zelda games were like before Breath of the Wild. And I think it's a really good thing to clarify because the experience of like the older style Zelda games is very different from Breath of the Wild. And so, yeah, it'll just be interesting if people who got into Zelda because of Breath of the Wild, like the reaction to Skyward Sword.
I don't remember any warning like that on Link's Awakening.
I think that's a great point. I feel like the presentation was different enough that
Yeah.
like there would be no
That's a great point. That is a great
conflating
point.
the two. But
Yeah.
but what I also like, this one comes out on July 16th. So not that long of a wait, but I wonder if the door is still open to seeing uh the other HD remasters that showed up on Wii U, Twilight Princess and Wind Waker, this year as well, because it is the 35th anniversary of Zelda, and they haven't specifically called out that they're doing anything for it. But I would just kind of be shocked if even if they don't come this year, that we don't see those HD remasters. Like, why would you leave them on Wii U?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it is a shame that they are trapped on the Wii U. As someone who owns a Wii U and both of those HD remasters, I'm kind of content to just have them there. I wouldn't play them again if they came out on Switch. I don't think. Um, but yeah, like I I would say that they'll probably roll them out at some point in the future. But it might just be a while.
It also feels like for whatever reason, when we got three 3D Mario games in one package, that felt like a joy. Getting three like full length Zelda games would kind of feel like, I mean, for $60, great, but like
Right.
would feel like a burden to play. Like, I don't think I would want to play one after the other. Like, I wanted to play Mario 64 and then go right into Sunshine.
Yeah. And that's a good thing worth pointing out is that this will be a $60 package for the one game, which is a lot to ask for a 10-year-old Wii game.
But I'm
But
assuming it's an HD remake in the same vein that like Twilight Princess and Wind Waker were. That it's not
Mhm.
just like a remastered, like it's like a like done game. And so I'll be interested to see, like both Twilight Princess and Wind Waker made changes to the original game for like quality of life improvements. And so I'm sure we'll be getting something similar with Skyward Sword.
That's true. And not just like quality of life improvements in the way of like this menu works better, but like taking some of the more fiddly quests where you have to like find 30 things and cut it down to like find 6 things. Like they really took a look at like what's annoying about the games and changed it. So like if they're able to do that to Skyward Sword as well, that's great. And then we close on Splatoon 3. Um which is a total surprise. This is a weird trailer, right? Because it starts with like just a view of an apocalyptic sort of like wasteland, right? And you sort of pan over slowly to what is very obviously an inkling, like taking shelter from the harsh sun in the shade of some wreckage. And it just goes through the customization process of like selecting your Splatoon character. Um, and I think it's interesting. There's no gender option. They just like all the hairstyles and whatever. I think that's an interesting little change that they're making there. And then you customize your little buddy, who is like some kind of weird slug thing. And then and like after that we see like the character sort of like walking through this wasteland, and there's like the overturned Eiffel Tower, so suggesting that we are no longer in Inkopolis, a future post-apocalyptic Akihabara or whatever. We are maybe in Paris or somewhere else. The setting has changed.
Well, I guess it could be Tokyo Tower technically.
Oh, could it? Yes, I suppose it could be.
But I thought for sure that this was a spin-off game, just because like you had
Me
that
too.
like, character customization at the beginning and like the long like faraway shot of the character of like the Inkling like making their way across the apocalyptic desert. It felt very like, ooh, this is another game in the Splatoon universe. But do you think that what we're seeing are the consequences of the final Splatfest in Splatoon 2, which of course was between Chaos and Order, and Chaos ended up winning?
I think that is entirely possible. I mean, the setup for Splatoon 2 is the result of the final Splatfest in Splatoon 1. So that makes perfect sense to me. I do hope, like, and this is sort of always my hope with Splatoon, is that they like build out the single player campaign a little bit more. I love single player Splatoon. I also love multiplayer, but like there's something special about like, not having to worry about disappointing your friends when you're playing Splatoon. But yeah, I mean, they showed off the sort of normal 4-on-4 turf war matches, and that's really it as far as gameplay is concerned. I saw the Splatoon Twitter account like going in and like breaking down every single weapon and move and special weapon, and just like variables in the terrain. So there's a lot of information out there that you can divine from this, minute and a half of gameplay. And this will be coming out in 2022. And I'm looking forward to finding out more about it. But like, I don't know, 2022 seems like a long time from now.
I'm so excited for this. I was shocked. Like I did not expect for us to see a Splatoon 3 so soon. I mean, I guess it'll have been 5 years since the first game. So, or from the second game. So not like that soon, but I wasn't expecting to get another one on Switch. The thing that struck me about Splatoon 3 is, or like the little trailer that they showed, and even the gameplay for the little bit that we saw, everything felt grander. Like it felt bigger.
Yeah.
And so I'm excited to see, whereas like Splatoon 2, I felt very much just like a retake on Splatoon 1 as far as scope goes. Splatoon 3, at least so far, seems like something much more like ambitious, and I'm excited to see how that plays out.
Yeah, and that's super well observed. And something that we've said before is that like Splatoon 2 always sort of felt like a port of Splatoon with just like more in it, with sort of a Splatoon 1.5. And so maybe that's how they saw it too, of like, let's just get this game over to the new hardware. And then Splatoon 3 is their chance to actually like make a sequel to Splatoon.
Do you know what I'm really hoping is, as we learn more about Splatoon 3 over the next year or so, is that we return to the Squid Research Lab.
Oh no.
Where we get
Mark.
where we get like Nintendo developers like in lab coats and just acting real goofy. I loved that stuff in the run up to Splatoon 2, and I'm so excited for that sort of thing. Hopefully it returns for Splatoon 3.
Remember that dude making the number 2 with his body?
I was trying to remember his name at like the Switch reveal in January 2017. Yeah, I was trying to remember who that was. I'll have to look it up because yeah, like that stuff was just so much fun, and it's really I fell in love with Splatoon 2. I didn't really play Splatoon 1 because I didn't own a Wii U, and so man, I'm just excited to be have more in that world.
Yeah, and I mean, look, there is nothing quite like the first couple weeks a Splatoon game is out, right? Like, it's just a fun time to be playing those games, and everyone's sort of like exploring it together, getting really into like the minutia of like what weapons do, and the meta game around like the special items and stuff. It's just great and good fun. Um, yeah, if Nintendo wants to put out a new Splatoon game every 5 years, I'm there.
Yeah, I'm excited for more Splatfest, like the Super Mario Splatfest that happened just a few weeks ago in Splatoon 2 reminded me how much fun those Splatfests are. Um, Man, yeah, this was a killer way to go out for me. I absolutely am so hyped for Splatoon 3.
Do you think this ends up like splitting the? I know the Splatoon 1 like servers are have now been taken down, so like everyone that's playing Splatoon is playing Splatoon 2. Do you think they run like the risk of splitting their sort of player base here, or do you think this is in like a move to sort of like you know migrate people from Splatoon 2 to Splatoon 3? I can't imagine that there would be like crossplay between them.
Yeah, I can't imagine either. And yeah, I think that's absolutely a risk anytime you like release two of these online games in the same console generation. I think Splatoon has a big enough following and definitely in
Good
Japan
point.
where like I think a lot of people will jump on a third game. But you're absolutely right. Like, what does that do to the community of Splatoon 2? Like, it totally decimates it.
Well, all right, Mark, we've done it. We've gone all the way through this Nintendo Direct. It only took us at least as long as the Direct itself. What do you have any in conclusion thoughts here? Anything that you're particularly excited about? Uh, yeah, that's the question.
Yeah, it's anytime that there's a direct, right? Like I'm so grateful for what we have, but the next question is immediately like, what's next?
What's
Because
next?
Nintendo was very clear that like this is going to be about our games for the first half of the year. And they surprised us with some stuff for 2022. But, there is we don't really know much from Nintendo past July of this year now when Skyward Sword comes out. And so yeah, like it just totally it gets me excited to think about like what else might be out there. And now that we've got a like Nintendo Directs back in our life, I'm hungry for more. You know what I mean?
Yeah, just give me more Nintendo Directs. I think it's also just exciting to get like this much information about first party stuff in the beginning half of the year because I feel like, especially recently, that has not been Nintendo's MO. With the exception of the year that they also launched the Switch, they kind of wait till the fall and into winter of the year, which Mark has of course described as the last 2 weeks of the year, to release their big games. So like it is cool to actually have some information about the first half of this year, especially after going so long without like
Yeah.
having any info. Um, yeah, I don't know. It seems really cool to me. Even the games I'm not excited about, I'm interested to see, what they look like and how they perform.
For me, I think the Nintendo Direct threaded the needle really well where it's like, um, yes, I feel like I have more information about what Nintendo is doing this year and I have things to look forward to. But on the other hand, I still feel like I have no idea what Nintendo's year looks like. And as a fan,
Yes.
that's a really exciting like place to be.
Also, for as much as people want information about Bayonetta 3, Metroid Prime 4, and Breath of the Wild 2, not getting information about those games means that they're still out there, right? Like those games are coming. We don't need to know about them until they're ready to pop at this point. So, yeah, it's very exciting to me. I'm happy to learn a bunch about like some weird new games. And there's a Project Triangle strategy in here. That's the craziest thing I've ever heard, Mark.
It just rolls right off the tongue.
Right off the tongue. All right, well, let's close this out. That's what we thought about the Nintendo Direct, but we would love to hear what you thought. What are you looking forward to here? Did you think this was a big garbage fire for 50 minutes and you don't like Nintendo anymore? You can email us at Nintendo Cartridge Society at
At gmail.com.
gmail.com. That's going to do it for this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society. Remember, please rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts. If you like the episode, you can share it on Facebook or Twitter, wherever you share stuff. It helps us tremendously when you do. You can follow us on Twitter. I'm at Patrick_Ellers. Mark is at MKE Mitchell, and the show is at Nin Cart Society. We also have a Facebook page, which is just Nintendo Cartridge Society. Olivia Duncan made our logo. Our theme music is provided by 8-Bit Betty. You can get more of his music by going to 8bitbetty.com or by listening right now. For my co-host, Mark Mitchell, this is Patrick Ellers saying thank you for listening.
My name is Will Hines, and I am a ghostwriter, meaning I write other people's books for them. And I have a podcast called I Will Write Your Book, which are recordings of my meetings with my eccentric clients, such as a woman blocked after one sentence of a children's book about her dogs, a romance novelist who dislikes sex, and a man proud of having sampled everything in his local grocery store. This podcast has been described as fully improvised, played by some of the best comedians on the planet Earth. Hey, that's pretty good. That's I Will Write Your Book on Campfire Media.
Campfire.